Good evening, this is James Robert Deal. Today is August the 5th, 2018. Of course, I'm running for the U.S. Senate against Maria Cantwell and a host of others. And I'm the one with the Green Campaign. Part of my Green Campaign is that we should become an organic nation. Everything can be grown organically, so it should be grown organically. You're listening to a song I wrote, my campaign theme song. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I'm going to fade it down and play it again at the end, or during my first break. I would remind you that at 9 o'clock I have a second radio program. This is going to be on real estate issues because I am a real estate broker and a real estate attorney. My phone number here is 425-774-6611.
Run to others as you would have them do unto you. Hey, Mr. Rich Guy, I'm talking to you. Hey, big company, I'm talking to you. Hey, big government, I'm talking to you too. Do unto others applies to all.
So the thrust of the song is that the golden rule doesn't just apply to individuals. It applies to businesses, and it applies to governments. It applies to all, and it applies for the benefit of all, for future generations, and therefore to the environment, which is going to nurture the coming generations. So if you want to hear all of my music, you can go to whattoserveagoddess.com, and on the top look for music by Jimmy Deal, which is the name I use for my music. So here we've got an industry that produces poison. Now, in our capitalistic society, we seem to give deference to any money-making business. So Monsanto gets the benefit of the doubt. We're trying to save our orca whales, and orcas eat salmon, and Roundup makes salmon sick and kills them. And everybody's spraying Roundup on their driveway. The city, the county, the state is spraying it along the roads. So can we be too surprised that it's killing the salmon? And fluoridation kills salmon too. So it's released into the river at the after processing, and most of that water comes straight through fluoridated. The treatment plant doesn't take out the fluoride. The molecule, the ion, is just too small for any filtration to remove it, along with the surfactants, which unfortunately can't be removed. So what we've done is we divert entire rivers, and then we add, for example, in Snohomish County, we add 250 gallons a day of this deadly toxic fluorosilicic acid, and we diverted this water from the river, add the fluorosilicic acid, and then put the water back in the river. And the way that fluoride kills salmon is that it is a salt, and the salmon are absorbing and retaining salts. They're back from the ocean where they had to excrete salts. So we shouldn't be too surprised that the numbers of salmon in populated areas is declining. So Roundup is a carcinogen. It's been found by the World Health Organization to be a carcinogen, and it's used to kill weeds. So I've talked to corn and soy farmers in Nebraska, and they say that when you use Roundup, there's no worms, there's no bugs, there are no birds, there are no animals. It's just corn and soy. And the corn and the soy are stunted. They're Roundup ready, means they can endure the poisonous effect of Roundup, but it does partially stunt their growth, and so they're not as strong, not as tall, and not as productive. So it reduces production. Recently, Bayer has bought Monsanto, or bought Roundup, which contains glyphosate. And most people talk about glyphosate being harmful. Yes, glyphosate is harmful, but Roundup contains more than just glyphosate. It also contains aluminum and other adjuvants, which make it more potent. And it doesn't break down. And so you end up eating it, unless you're eating organic. And there's one exception to the organic rule, and that is that grapes can be sprayed with fluoride-based poisons, specifically aluminum fluoride or cryolite. So that means that you shouldn't be drinking non-organic California wines. Probably wines in Washington and Oregon are not treated with cryolite. But the organic label on wines doesn't guarantee that your wine is fluoride free. I know a lot about grapes. I grow grapes. I've got 23 grape plants lining my fence. And if you've watched the videos on jamesrobertdeal.org/videos, you'll see how I've arranged the plants around the perimeter, and I grow them on shelf brackets with berry wire running through the end to raise them up high enough so that they can get the sun. And Roundup is now obsolete because we now have robots which can go through the fields, identify weeds, and pull them out or chop them up. So herbicides are organic. You probably didn't know that our wheat is being sprayed with Roundup. It's not Roundup ready wheat, but it's sprayed because Roundup kills the wheat all at the same time, so that it can all be harvested at once, and there's not a concern about an unseasonable rain occurring and thus ruining the crop or delaying the harvest. So Roundup's convenient, but is it worth the price that we're now, all of our bread, all of the meat animals that are fed with corn and soy contain Roundup. So when you eat a burger, when you eat a bun, you're eating Roundup. And when you're drinking anything made with corn syrup, high fructose corn syrup, you're drinking Roundup. It's hard to avoid. But what difference does a toxin deserve just because it's private enterprise? Well, I'm all for private enterprise, provided that it follows certain ethical guidelines. And in my song, I talk about do unto others applying to corporations. And there's even a paragraph about Monsanto. Hey Monsanto, where's your code? Your code of ethics, you should have one. Hey you fraudulent seller of carcinogenic Roundup. Monsanto, where's your code? Profits must be goal number 2. After doing something good for the world. You can make a tidy profit without fracking up the world. Do unto others applies to all. So we've underestimated just how harmful Roundup is. And it's now found virtually everywhere, in everybody. So I'm running as a Green. I'm not officially endorsed by the Green Party. I applied too late to obtain endorsement. However, my credentials are clear. I've been running since 2012 against fluoridation and other assaults on our health and our environment. I'm also opposed to smart meters and 5G. And I'm in favor of studying all the microwave radiation that's being emitted, for example, through cell towers and through Wi-Fi's, to try to determine what, if any, safe level there is. We should do as much as possible of our communication through a hardwired connection. So our city here, our fair town, Linwood, Washington, has a golf course. It's just behind Edmonds Community College. And that is a 9-hole golf course that continuously loses money and owes over $1 million to the city of Linwood. So I did a little bit of research and found that this is a golf course which has a problem with fungus, with moss, and with dandelions. So 19 different chemicals are utilized on that golf course. And if you look at the label says kills fish, or kills frogs, or toxic to humans, toxic to animals. Now, it's possible to have an organic golf course, and in fact there's one at Martha's Vineyard in Massachusetts, and that's where President Obama went to play golf when he went on vacation in Martha's Vineyard. People who operate that golf course say that it does raise labor costs, but it decreases the cost of the chemicals. And furthermore, it makes your golf course famous because you're not participating in poisoning the fish, because that toxic waste is going to flow downriver, down the stream, into the river, into the ocean. So the Safe Drinking Water Act and the Safe Water Act use the word pristine, and the EPA really doesn't abide by that standard. The standard now is, if the pollution you propose to do is not that much worse than the pollution we're also already enduring, then you can do it. For example, the Colorado River has oil refineries along its banks. And one thing that oil refineries produce in large amounts is salt. Oil is often found in or below or around salt beds of old seas that were later covered up. So the EPA grants permits to dump tons and tons of salt into the Colorado River. And drinking water shouldn't contain salt. When we hydrate, we don't want to be taking in more salt. We want to make it possible for our bodies to excrete any excess salt that we may have consumed. And furthermore, salt is bad for avocados, which grow in abundance in California. And then we give enormous tax breaks to oil companies so they can go drilling for oil. So why do they deserve this? They also get depletion allowances, as if it were they created the oil, so they can discover a bed of oil and then get a deduction for the amount that's being used up, with the net effect being that they pay little, if any, in the way of taxes. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now. The future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Atlantic Richfield, stop your frackin' ways. Your methane is even worse than your CO2. Quit poisoning the water. Quit poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Shell Oil, how much did you spend? $8 billion in the Chukchi Sea? You left, you said there was no oil, but really, there's a lot. It was Mother Nature's storms that drove you off. $8 billion would build enough solar power to permanently power 230,000 homes. Now, some people have suggested that we have a buffalo commons in the United States, in the western prairie region and in the drier regions up closer to the Rockies. A buffalo commons that would be a corridor, maybe 10 or 20 or 50 miles wide, interconnecting all the national parks, all the national monuments, and all the tribal lands. And in those areas, the buffalo would be free to roam, and the mountain lion would be free to roam, the wolves as well. So tourists would come from around the world to see large numbers of buffalo running as a herd. But our value system is skewed toward profit making, toward sticking with our traditional ways of fencing in as opposed to fencing out. If you've got a farm in one of these corridors, you would fence out. You'd probably need some financial assistance to do that because buffalo need a pretty resilient fence. And we shouldn't have beef cattle and sheep on public lands. These lands need to be as natural as possible. So I'm running as a green. I'm running to wake people up, to alert them to the fact that things are looking pretty grim. And one of the reasons, in fact, that I run is to ameliorate the feeling of depression that I feel about the state of the world, which is bad and getting worse. Now, since I was born in 1947, the population of the earth has tripled from around 2.5 billion to around 7.5 billion. Now, growth is a 6-letter word, and so is the word enough. Will there ever be a point where growth ends? Both political parties seem to be all in favor of growth. Well, can you have growth in the quality of life, maybe in incomes for everybody, but not necessarily have growth in population or growth in the production of plastic bags which float out into the ocean? My proposal is that the cost of every product should include the cost of recycling that product when its useful life is done. and that cost should be added to the cost when the product is sold. And that environmental fee should be set aside for dealing with these items. And charging such a fee would encourage manufacturers to produce products that are biodegradable and for which little or no fee is required. Now, I've been getting a lot of emails this week from voters. So I'm going to go over to my inbox for my campaign. The most frequent email I get is from people who ask me to take the pledge and agree not to take money from oil sources. And so I've got an ironclad reply. I just reply and paste it in saying, I've already taken the pledge. Look at my website. My platform is here. My links to organic are here. jamesrobertdeal.org/roundup. I'm going to take a break here and play you the full version of my campaign theme song. And I'll be back in 5 minutes and 35 seconds.
Unto others as you would have them do unto you. Hey, Mr. Rich Guy, I'm talking to you. Hey, big company, I'm talking to you. Hey, big government, I'm talking to you too. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, Monsanto, where's your code? Your code of ethics, you should have one. Hey, you fraudulent seller of carcinogenic Roundup, Monsanto, where's your code? Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. Hey, ExxonMobil, look up, not down, to solar and wind and wave. Stop drilling now, the future is green. Be a big green energy company. Hey, ExxonMobil, stop stop your fracking ways. Your methane is even worse than your CO2. Quit poisoning the water, quit poisoning the air. Be a big green energy company. Hey, Shell Oil, how much did you spend? $8 billion in the Chuck Cheese Sea. You left, you said there was no oil, but really there's a lot. It was Mother Nature's storms that drove you off. $8 billion would build enough solar power to permanently power 230,000 homes. Polluting the world is not only morally wrong, long term it makes absolutely no financial sense. You can make a tiny profit without fracking up the world. Do unto others applies to all. Hey, cattle rancher, take your beeves off the public land. Give the buffalo and the wolf a place to roam. Profits must be goal number 2 after doing something good for the world. And do unto others applies for our descendants, our duty to those billions yet unborn, our sons and our daughters for the next 10,000 years. Do unto others applies for all. And do unto our Mother Earth as you would have her be a home for your children.
This is James, back again. So I want to remind you that at 9 o'clock, same place, jamesrobertdeal.org/radio, I'm going to do a real estate program. I'm a real estate broker and a real estate attorney throughout the state of Washington. So if you know someone who is buying or selling, I'm available. And I'm also available to work with other brokers. I often co-broker. If a broker's got a transaction that exceeds the scope of his knowledge and in terms of its complexity, I can quote a flat fee payable at closing. I can be paid as a broker or as an attorney. And my website for that is washingtonattorneybroker.com. My wife and I are both brokers, and we work together on everything. So I do encourage you to vote on Tuesday. Turn in those ballots, and I hope you vote for me. I will certainly do my best to make this an organic nation. Now I'm going to close out with another song that I wrote, which is semi-autobiographical. And I'll be back at 9 o'clock.
would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. Some may be deserving of punishment infernal. May they be punished no more and no less. Some may be deserving of retirement in heaven. If I am so lucky, my hope is to play the big pipe organ, to play the big pipe organ. Greenland will melt, Antarctica too. Oceans will rise, our cities will be undersea attractions. A comet will fall into Atlantic, tsunami cross Pacific, will overtop the coastal nukes. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Plutonium catch fire and burn. Once alight, those nukes will burn for 1,000 years. We will live underground, come out only in hazmat. The sun in solar maximum will send us a mass ejection. Electronics will be toasted and we will return to the 1800s. Life is a tragedy, said an ancient sage. A tragedy to those who feel, but a comedy to those who think. So I've thought, and I've thought about it often, about taking my own life. The thing that has kept me going is knowing I'll be dead soon enough. I was sitting by her side when my mother died at 90. Dying won't be so bad, she said. In heaven I can smoke if I want. Follow your truth, she would say, wherever it leads you, and do not fear the truth you may find. I hope there is a God above. I pray there is no devil. I hope there is a heaven. I pray there is no hell. I pray there is no hell. Unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses seldom rhyme. I never claim to be a poet. I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer boy. You say it's unlikely, but such things have happened before. Unlikely things which have happened before will eventually happen again. People often ask me why my verses rarely rhyme. I never claim to be a poet. I'm only a drummer boy. I'm only a drummer